Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here. Today we have some gameplay coming straight from the dev stream of the new Warframe. I'm going to let you guys watch the gameplay from the developers or DE Rebecca herself, and the explanations coming from DE, I think it's Scott. And then you guys can, make your own opinions on that there, and then I'll share mine after the gameplay is actually rolled. So here you go and enjoy.
But I'm going to use
Still a bit rough.
Oh, okay.
Still a little bit rough. We can cast the powers.
The visuals are amazing, and
the sound is.
the design is quite terrible, but the sound is amazing.
So
These are her idols.
her idols aren't hooked up yet.
Her idols aren't.
No, so this is Mesa's idols, which a lot of players are quite fond of,
But
myself.
I think they rebooted the sound on this Warframe.
They did.
Just redid it. And it's
The sound design is
so cool.
So we're going to
now.
cast the powers to get some of that sound design today. The first power, we'll just show them, and you can talk a bit about them as I show them, if you want. Or so, power numero uno.
It's just a single target kind of shank. Actually, it's not a single target. It's focused down the stream, so you can get multiple targets and kind of impale them.
So that looks.
So it's a little poke.
It's like a giant glass sword.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you're selling me on it. Yeah.
So it basically.
We're working on making this more viewable from the third person.
From the third person,
Yeah. It looks really good
really
from this
cool.
this angle.
Yeah.
It suffers a bit because it's kind of behind the frame.
Yeah.
I can see like cool refraction stuff now.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, so you can and you can hold on to it to keep them impaled. So this is
It keeps them impaled and also increases the distance in which you can impale them. So.
exactly.
Oh, can they hear it, Dean? Can they hear
Yeah.
this?
So Chad, if you can give us a.
The light on the glass there looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's
No kidding.
Secondary light bouncing off
it's
it?
ridiculous how good this is. So that's the first power. The second one is. So this is sound design. I'm going to shut up so you guys can just hear it. You'll notice all her glass pieces are gone, and now they're back.
So this is the.
What is this?
This is like a damage around you, but the cool thing is you could also cast this on an ally, or you can cast it on an enemy. So if there's a group of enemies coming at you, you can kind of cast it on them and let them self-damage, or you can cast it on yourself if you're going really heavy melee. So targeted versus untargeted, you get basically an AoE damage volume around you. That is really cool.
Yeah, and the sound, again, great job on the sound team, effects, everything here is just
Everything's looking really cool. This is awesome.
beautiful. And then the third power, which is, I don't know if it's final yet, but basically you can place these.
Yes. So it's my terrible naming is that it's fragmented reality. So the idea is it's basically mirrors that show the enemies. So it's a CC ability that you can place around the environment, and the AI will attack them. And as they attack them and smash it, they will be doing damage to themselves. So each mirror smashes and then does damage to the attacker until enough of the mirrors have been destroyed, and then it collapses in on itself, doing a final area of effect damage.
And then last,
It's a metaphor for vanity.
we wanted you to take a look at what Fashion Frame has turned you into, and then the.
So
This was looking broken earlier today, though.
Oh, for
The fourth?
Okay, let's try it.
So I'm going to press 4. Are you
Everyone,
ready?
that looks
cross your fingers,
amazing.
cross your
Everyone?
Actually, I'm already. Okay, that's not quite
That's
good.
10. That's 10.
All right.
But
Oh, yeah, the final mesh is in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the growth. So the idea is here is like it's a molten glass expanding. It's a toggle cast, so you can basically decide how big you want this ring. The ring basically, as it's expanding out, any AI that travels across it will be covered in molten glass. So they'll slow over time until they're totally frozen, and then when you toggle it off, you basically get a barrier. And then it synergizes with the shank ability, so you can smash it in a direction and kind of do damage to a group of enemies.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Sorry, nice.
Yeah.
So
So it's
back in the
basically
other
it's a bit of damage buff mixed with a frost bubble almost a bit. So it's
Yay.
taking like kind of Nova's ability and Frost and kind of combining them together.
Sorry, it said you basically get something, but she cast it and people couldn't hear when you cast it. You basically get something that nobody could hear it.
Okay. I can't hear me. I'm
all right.
humble.
He
Yeah.
said you cover them in molten glass, and then there's a synergy if you put your shank on it, which is your first
Yes.
power, it explodes, and you get directional damage.
So it's a mix of basically Frost's Snow Globe and Nova's Prime or
Molecular prime.
Molecular Prime.
So you're shattering what's on them.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
damaging. Oh, that's
Yes.
cool.
So you can shatter in a direction and kind of do an AoE effect.
As I get my get my life in order here.
Currently, the passive for the glass frame is in bright light. She has a percent chance to do a radial blind. So I call it glint. So it's like a little bit of a glint off the glass. So that's currently what her passive is. We're still playtesting some of this stuff.
I can sometimes do that with my head.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ready. So, yep.
Alright guys, so that is basically it for the gameplay of the glass frame. I think she turned out pretty well just from watching the dev stream. Like, her abilities look really cool, and some of the descriptions that they gave for the abilities, like how they're going to work, really sort of intrigued me, because like for the last ability, like her ultimate, like the description that they gave, you know, like a mixture between Frost's Snow Globe and Nova's M Prime, those are like two of my most used abilities like throughout my sort of like playtime in Warframe. So it's going to be super interesting to see how that sort of plays out. So just to kind of go through and explain some of the abilities again, let's talk about the first one. I'll try to sort of sync up the gameplay with what I'm talking about as well. So the first ability is, it's like a single target ability, kind of like, let's say, Necros' Soul Punch or Oberon's Smite ability, where you basically aim at an enemy and then you press your one, it's like a punch, except it's not actually single target, it's multi-target. So if any enemies are kind of like running alongside or behind or in front of whatever enemy it is that you're targeting, they're going to be impaled by your one, and the longer you hold down your one, the longer this sort of impalement or the spear that's coming from your hand is going to sort of extend, right? So I'm assuming that whenever you cast this, like the initial range that it kind of comes out at is affected by your power range mod, and it might also be like affected by power duration as well. Like, you know, power duration will determine how far it can actually extend. That might be a cool mechanic that they introduced in there. So it's definitely going to be a cool ability to play around with, like just something fun to use, and I'm going to be interested to see what augments they kind of come up with it. But I don't think it's going to be an ability that I use a lot, right? Because it doesn't really seem like it's going to be useful for killing a lot of mobs. Maybe high level mobs, depending on the damage, it might be good at, you know, keeping them in one spot. And apparently it synergizes well with her fourth ability, which we'll talk about whenever we get to the fourth ability. But other than that, just using it on its own, I don't think I'll do that much. The second ability really did intrigue me though. It sounds a lot better than the first one. So basically what happens is all the glass armor that is on your glass frame is going to sort of shatter and then rotate around you. And you can either cast this on yourself or you can cast this on your teammates, you know, or maybe even enemies. I don't know if they said that there in the gameplay, but basically what I said is they can either cast it on yourself or you can cast it on something else or someone else, and then all the glass is kind of going to rotate around yourself or whoever you cast it on, and it's going to deal damage, right? This sounds really cool, and I can already like think of some augments and stuff that they could maybe give with that. So like you're shattering all this glass off yourself, so you know, let's say they make like an augment called like shattering armor or something, where it sort of like strips all the status effects off you upon using that ability. Of course it might not be worth modding for, but it's just like a cool thing to maybe have, or just a cool idea to come with the glass frame. It sounds like a really cool ability, just being able to damage enemies that come towards you, but it does remind me a lot of Nova's one, right? So you're using the one, and then any enemy that comes close to you is going to be damaged, except it sounds like it's going to be a better version of that. Like it's going to be cutting the enemy up, potentially dealing slash procs, kind of like Equinox's meme, but instead in like a sort of smaller fashion, right? So I'm going to assume that the sort of like, you know, range of these little glass shards that are going to be rotating around you is going to be affected by power range mods, right? So, you know, the more power range you have on, then the more glass shards sort of like, you know, float around you. And then obviously the duration of it is going to be affected by power duration, and then the strength by power strength. And then that is basically that there. So, you know, it would be cool. It would also be cool to see that there as like an energy drain ability as well. But I'm assuming the fourth is going to be more like an energy drain ability, because, you know, you can press it and, you know, hold it for a while. So after that, we move on to the third ability here. The third ability is, you know, like a augmented reality type of thing, or augmented reality, whatever. I don't even know the name. I can't remember it. But basically what it is you like spawn in these massive mirrors, and it's like a CC ability, right? So the enemies are going to be attracted to their own reflection, and then they're going to deal damage to their own reflection, in turn dealing damage to themselves. So it's pretty cool, right? And then whenever enough damage is dealt to these reflections, it's going to sort of explode or smash, and then the enemy's going to die, or it's going to deal like some type of explosive damage, right? It sounds really, really cool. It sounds like an awesome CC ability. Obviously, might be affected by power range, might be affected by power duration, and then obviously the amount of damage that it deals back to the enemy upon them hitting it will be affected by power strength. It just sounds like a really cool ability, something that we've never seen before, and it's going to be fun to mess around with in game. I also am very interested to see how that works versus the Eidolons, if it does, because imagine placing one of these mirrors in front of the Eidolons and then making it attack its own reflection and being able to deal massive damage to that there, if that's a mechanic they actually plan to introduce. Moving on to the last ability. The last ability was, the most interesting one because they explained it. It's a mixture of Frost Snow Globe and then obviously Nova's M Prime. So what happens is you hold down your 4 button or your 4th ability or whatever, and then you basically make this glass like expand around you, and then any enemies that are caught within this sort of glass radius, I guess you could say, is going to be like set on molten glass, and they're going to be slowed and have like a damage, I guess it's like a damage buff like applied to them, so they're going to take more damage, and then you can also shatter these enemies too. So if you use your 1 and then you shoot at him, let's say he's facing north or whatever, and you're shooting at him, and you're shooting at him from the south, he's gonna like shatter, and then it's gonna be like AoE damage dealt back. So like all these shards are gonna like spray out and then cut up the enemies that are, to the south of that enemy. It sounds really cool, right? So that sounds awesome. And then you also have the bit where you can shatter the big shield that you make, or the glass thing, in a direction as well. So any enemies that are outside this glass shield, they're going to be hit by all these shards that you're hitting as well. And it's going to be interesting to see like how this damage sort of like scales, I guess you could say. Like if the sort of circle is bigger, well, we get more shards, will we get more damage? How can we increase the range of it? Can we make it like a bigger sort of like almost like a sphere, like Frost Snow Globe, for example? Or is it just like this little flat surface, like this flat rectangular surface that kind of goes in a circle shape around the Warframe whenever they cast it? And our enemies who are outside the circle, are they able to sort of enter in as well? So the frame sounds really cool, and our passive sounds really cool as well. So we have, a percentage chance to make a miniature radial blind whenever you're in light. That sounds really cool, and it's going to be super helpful in the Plains of Eidolon, especially during the daytime. So she might be a good frame to pick up if you're a newer player and jumping into Plains of Eidolon. Hopefully she's a great friend to play as at endgame as well. So, I'm excited to play as her, and I hope you guys are too. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. But other than that, guys, that has been some gameplay about the glass frame, and hope you guys enjoyed it. So if you did, hit that like button below, and if you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.